Hello there. I don't know if anybody's there. They can see me or, well, see the screen of the MacBook. Uh, Give us a shout out if you can hear us, because nothing's coming up on my monitor. Excellent. Right, what you're looking at there is a representation of the MacBook screen, because it's all going to be computer based today. If you remember the last live that I did, we looked at putting a single image multiple times on a page and putting multiple images on one page. This time we're going to look at creating a digital paper for junk journaling, and to do that we're going to be using Word. Now if I go on the screen here and I open up Word, along the bottom, there we go, you get the default opening screen, and we just need a blank document, so we'll double click on the blank document, and that brings up as a screen with a single page of A4 for his junk journal. Now obviously normally we would do this in landscape, so we need to rotate it, and if we go to the layout button tab, then on there we have a orientation. In the moment it's in portrait and we need to make it landscape. So there we go. We'll change the view on that so it's one page, so we get the complete image, so you can probably see it slightly better. Now to create a page we need a number of images, and we need to layer them up on top of each other. So the first thing we need to do is to think about an image for our background. I've already loaded a number of images and put them in a place so I know I can find them. So if you go to the Insert tab, on there it should have where's Pictures? There's a Pictures tab. My eyesight's going, and if we pull the drop down menu on that, we have Picture from File. So we'll click on that. I've put them in a folder called Demo Images, and in there we have a number of images that we can choose to use as our background. The first one we'll probably use is one called the turquoise baseboard. I've chosen that one because Fiona did a video on creating baseboards in the real world, so that video is available on YouTube to show you how to make a sort of patterned baseboard. Later on we'll do ones that aren't patterned, but for now we'll just use that one just to get to grips with what we're doing. So we'll insert that, and there you see it pops up there. Now the first thing we need to do is, when it inserts a picture, it's almost like putting a sticker on the page. It's fastened that image to that page, so and you can't really move it, so we need to unlink that from the page underneath. And to do that we right click on it and we drop down the menu until it says wrap text, and the option we're going to use is in front of text. Now what that does is it removes the image from the page and kind of floats it above the text. In this instance there isn't actually any text on the page at the moment, but if they were writing on that it would put the image over the top of the text and would totally ignore the text. So we'll click on that and make it in front of text, and you'll now see that if we sort of press and hold we can move that image anywhere on the page and it's not tethered down. The next thing we need to do is we're going to rotate that, and around the square that's been drawn there's a little rotate button, and you can swing that round whichever way round you need to be, and that looks about right to me because the birds are sitting the right way up. And there we now have an image that's freely floating on top of that page. The next thing we want to do really is to make that fill the page. So what we can do is drag that, and because it's not tethered to the page you can actually take it off the page. You see, that goes right all off the page, which means that if you print it out and you've got a borderless printer, it will cover the entire page, because but it doesn't, it ignores the bits that's off the page, but it means you don't have any white borders. Now if we drag the bottom right hand corner down, we can stretch that image across all of the page. Now as you can see, that's a very nice page on its own, and that's because the baseboard that Miss Paintalot created has got all those layers on. But what we want to do is just use that as the background to our other multi-layered image that we're going to put on top. Now the next thing we can do is that's quite bright, it's quite in your face, shall we say, or blousy as Fiona would put it. You'll see now we're in the sort of picture format toolbar, and on the far right hand side it says format pane, and if we drop that, then we get a number of options that pop up on the right hand side. If we go to the one that looks like a landscape picture, then we have a number of options there, which includes cropping it, so we could get rid of bits if we didn't like them, and we have picture transparency. Now at the moment that's set to 0%, so what that means is that the picture's 100% there. We can turn that all the way down to 100%, which means the image would disappear entirely. But if we grab the button and drag it across, you can see that gradually that picture fades away, and fades away eventually to nothing. But we can select somewhere that we think is a nice, further in the background. Let's make it 50%, a nice round number. There we go. Now that means that 50% of that image has been faded into the background and away. So it's now not the dominant feature on that page, which is very nice. So what we need to do to create these layers is we need another image. So we'll go back again to Insert, back again to the Pictures tab, Picture from File, and we'll find a nice one to put over that. In this instance, I think we'll try and find there's a nice butterfly there, some papers, some birds, but what we really want is there's some trees, the moon, some leaves, flocks, frames. Tree bark, tree. There's a very nice tree. So we'll insert that. Now that file is, I think it came from Pixabay, which is a free source for images and what's called vector files. Now we probably need to explain slightly about the types of picture formats that you can get. This one is called a PNG, which stands for, not that you need to know that, but I think for the sake of completeness, is Portable Network Graphics. And what that is, it's what they call a vector image, and by vector, it's basically this. If you, in the simplest form, if you thought of a square, and the corners were A, B, C, and D, and there was lines between them, so it drew a square. If you were to scale that up, it just remains as that. It's scalable ad infinitum, because you'd still have the same 4 points, and the lines would just get longer between them. So it makes it very scalable, so we can make it bigger, smaller, and the image quality will never change. The other beauty of these is they don't have a background, so effectively it's been fussy cut. If you think of a PNG as being a fussy cut picture, then that's what it is. There is no background to worry about. So we've got that image there now.
Go to, where did you say, Pixabay?
Pixabay.
And look up vectors.
I could do that on here. Let me have a look. Let's open up Safari. we can type in Pixabay, which is Pixabay. Enter that, and as we see, it opens up the main page with a search box, and at the moment it's set for images, and that's basically photographs. If you change that, click on that on the right hand side, you get a drop down menu, and there's one for vector graphics, and basically that's PNGs. So none of those images actually have a background. They're effectively fussy cut. So if you scroll down, you can see that there's just ad infinitum. You could search for a particular subject if you like. If you were to type in the top butterfly, you would get lots and lots of PNG type images, which means they're scalable for as large as you want. You could put that on the side of a barn if you wanted, and it would still be the same quality. Right, let's shut that down and get back to our image. There we go, that's our tree. There it is. And at the moment, that tree has done what the first image did. It's fixed itself to the page, which means we can't move it, and we can't do what we want to do with it. So the first thing we need to do is to select that image, wrap the text, put it in front of text, and then that now has become free floating, and we can move that to anywhere we want. Off the bottom of the page, we can make it half on the page, we can make it larger, we can bring it back in, so we'll leave it there for now. Now as you can see, that's quite black, so it's really dominating the image. So again, we can go back to the transparency button and reduce that down a bit so it just blends nicely. There we go, that's about 60%, maybe back a little. There we go, something like that. It comes out at 49. And that image now, because it's been reduced in its intensity, has blended itself into the background. Now we obviously need more images, so what we'll do this time is we'll go in, back to insert, pictures, picture from file, and we shall find a nice bird somewhere. I wish I'd renamed these, it would have made it life easier. There we go, there's a nice little blue tit sitting on a branch, which is an original painting by Fiona, so there's no copyright on that one. Again, we need to make that in front of text, and what we can see there is it's in the background. Oop, we haven't made it in front of text yet. Front of text, there we go. Sometimes you have to keep moving your background out of the way so you can actually select it, because it inserts the next image underneath that one. But if you just move it to the side, select it, wrap the text, and you'll be good to go. Now this particular image is a JPEG, or a Joint Photographic Experts Group image, but just a JPEG for short. And in terms of normal language, it is just a photograph. But because it's a photograph, it comes with a background. But that isn't really what we want. What we want to need to do is to fussy cut that, in effect, so that we can just have the bird and maybe that little bit of branch without any of that off-white background. But we can do that within Word. We don't need anything fancy to do. All we need to do is effectively to fussy cut that. So if you go to the toolbar at the top, on the very far left it says remove background. So if you click on that, there you go, and basically everything now that's in purple, it is chosen to remove. If I was to accept them changes, that bird and that bit of branch is what we would get. If it takes out things that you'd like to keep, for instance, on you'll notice on the bottom right there's a little bit of branch which has been purpled out, which means it will remove that. If I wanted to keep that, again on the top left there's a plus button in green that says keep it, mark areas to keep, and on the right of that is a red button that says remove, mark areas to remove. So you can add and remove certain areas just by clicking on them. So if we were to select the green button, my cursor now turns into a small pen, as it were. And if I was to click on that bottom bit where the branch that was missing, click on certain areas of that, you'll now see that it's filled that back in again. So it's chosen now to keep that part. So we're happy with that, so we'll click on the big tick, the green tick, which is keep changes. Click on that and you'll see that now that bird is free to float around, tweet, 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 sit in a tree, fly around the sky, carrying a branch. And that's good. Now we'll see that we've got a little bit of branch down the bottom underneath the branch, makes it look like a bit like a bow saw. Now we need to remove that because we don't really want that bit there because it's not adding to the look of it. So again, if you go to the right hand side where it says crop, and where are we? Crop. There we go. I've clicked on the image, and at the top where it says crop is where I need to be. If I click on that crop, it adds black markers in the corners and the middle of each side on that image. Whether you can pick that up on the screen, I don't know. But if I take the one from the middle of a line, that's going to bring that entire line up or down, and as well as on the sides it would bring them in. Or if you select a corner, it'll bring in the two sides that are connected to that corner, if that makes sense. But in this instance we just want to get rid of that black line at the bottom, so we'll just drag the black bar from the middle of that line up slightly, get rid of that, and then we just enter, and there we go, it's cropped off that image and got rid of that line for us. Now what we really want to do is probably put that bird in that tree, so we probably need to make him slightly smaller, so we'll drag a corner and drag him down. Another way of doing it, if you had a specific size in mind, like you were making a journaling tag or something like that, if you look at the top right, it's got the height and the width settings. At the moment this is set in centimetres, but you can put it on inches. So if you wanted, say, an image that was 4 inches by 4 inches, you just enter the 4 in the height and the width, and it would put it exactly the size that you need. Next to those two boxes with the height and the width, there's a little tick, and that means that it's locked the height and the width together. So if you reduce one, it'll reduce the other to keep it all in proportion. If that wasn't ticked and you altered one, it could distort the image, which may be what you want, but we like it to be as is. So you make sure that that's ticked next to those two boxes. Now we're going to drag that, we're going to leave him over there, I think, out of the way. We're going to make that tree a bit bigger, I think, and a bit more off screen, maybe even a little bigger again. What I'm trying to do here is just to match the size of that branch perhaps to one of those, so that when we move our little birdie in there, and we can rotate him slightly to give that branch more of a branchy type look, and then we can put him perhaps into there. Let's find a usable branch, that one, say. That's it, we'll pop him there. Now he looks like he's actually part of that tree. Again, if we thought he was too bright, we could go to the transparency and just tone him down a little. Not too much, because if you go too much you start seeing the tree through him, which is a bit ghostly. So we'll just perhaps just tweak him down just a tadge. And there we go, that's that bird sitting in that tree looking like that branch actually belongs to that tree. Actually I might move that tree slightly more that way. Try and find a nicer looking branch, that one maybe. There we go. I think that branch looks like it probably belongs in that tree. Now what we can do now is we've got this space over here. We can add some other points of interest. Obviously those that have taken part in the collaborative journal on Miss Paintalot's Junk Journal group on Facebook will know it's all about birds and butterflies, or birds or butterflies. It's not compulsory that you do both. So what we'll do is try and find a butterfly that we can perhaps put in.
Just say first, if you move that tree over a little bit and make it bigger, there's a branch there that's identical
That one there.
to the, I'm seeing this little up, so I can't tell you.
I shall do that. Maybe that one there.
I can't see you. Actually.
No, I can see that. I think that's the one that you're referring to.
Yeah, I think so.
Typical artists say they just cannot help interfering. But she is right, that does look slightly better, making that tree slightly larger.
Yeah.
And what she's also done is given slightly more space on the right hand side that we can perhaps work in some butterflies. So again, we'll go back to insert, back to pictures, from file, and I shall find a butterfly. There we go. Ooh, there's a nice big butterfly. Right, and I just need to move that out of the way so I can select him. Make him a bit smaller. We need to unwrap him again, remember, otherwise it's fixed forever in place. Move the background back. And you'll see that he's also a JPEG, so he has a background. Obviously that's just never going to work for us. So again, we go to remove background, top left. Click on that, and there we go. Everything that's purple will now disappear. So at the moment we'll accept them changes, but we'll come back to him to do some slight. Well, actually, he's just nipped off the tip of his wings, so we just need to mark those tips, the wings. There we go. There's left. There's the right one. That's it. Let's put them back in, and we'll now keep those changes. So there's a nice, really big butterfly. At the moment we'll leave him as is, because I want to do some more toying with him, shall we say. You will notice that he's got white on all his body and wings, so we can't see through him. Now we could alter the transparency, and then we would see the background through him, but that's again it's not working in this particular instance. So what we need to do is perhaps make some of these white areas, we need to remove them so we can actually see the background, which will then form the colour upon his wings. So again, we selected the image, we still got him, so we go back to remove background, and on this instance we're going to click on mark areas to remove, which is the red button, and again we get the same little pen symbol, and wherever we click it should remove it. So we'll start with these quite large white areas on his wings first. There you go. You see, you click on those and you'll see that they turn purple. Sometimes, not all the time, because the thing is with JPEGs, they're what they call raster images, and what they're all made up of is like pixels. So unlike the PNGs, the vector images that we could stretch and stretch and stretch infinitum and they would still be the same, with JPEGs, because they're made up of pixels, if you go bigger and bigger and bigger, those pixels get bigger and bigger and bigger, so eventually the image gets all blurry and pixelated. It's not such a problem these days because of the high resolution of the cameras and phones that we take pictures with, but it's something worth bearing in mind. I mean, for junk journaling, most images are going to be fine because you're never going to get them large enough to pixelate.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Sammy's gone into Pixabay and Vector.
Yeah.
And then do you save image as when you find the one you want? They are coming up as WEBP files.
Let me go back to that Pixabay. On Pixabay, For instance, we have one there of a head butterfly. So we'd click on that, and there we go. That's that PNG, and it's a lady's head, and her hair is trailing behind her, and it's turned into a butterfly is a flock? I don't know what you call a load of butterflies.
A load of butterflies.
A load of butterflies, indeed. A flutter butterfly. And on the right hand side, you don't actually click and save that as anything. It's got a free download button on the right hand side in green. It's quite a large button, just about in level with a nose. And if you were to click on that, and then it gives you a number of options that you can actually save the resolution as. You'll also notice that you can save it as a SVG for those people that have cutting machines. You know, a Silhouette or a Cricut or a Brother Cut and Scan. You can save it as an SVG, which is basically a cut file. So you could cut that out on your cutting machine if you wanted to do that. But in this instance, I'd just leave it on the default, and then you'd click on download. The first time you use it, it usually has one of those verify you're not a robot thing, like click on the walkway or click on the traffic lights or whatever. Once you've done that, then it'll just download that to your downloads. You don't need to click on it and save as or anything. It will just save that to your downloads and be there ready for you when you go. In fact, we'll do that now. We'll click on that download, click on I'm not a robot, and download, and then you go, that's gone straight into the downloads. And because we're on Mac OS, it's opened it up in preview, so then I could rename that or save it or whatever. But that's it. Basically, you just click on the download button and away you go. Does that answer the question? I think it does.
Yeah.
So let's get back to my nice big butterfly. As I say, because it's a JPEG, which is a raster image, which means it's got pixels, sometimes when you click on the white bit, it doesn't change because it sort of clicked on a pixel which wasn't quite the same colour as the other pixels, so it doesn't do it. But basically you can click on all these little bits of white, as many as you want. See, there's some there, that's it, that's got that big bit, that's got that bit. Now that's a nice big bit. Click around, take some random slices. See, that's exactly what I'm doing. You see, it's just removing single pixels, and then eventually I'll get to a nice bit where it'll take a slightly larger chunk. You see, it's taking ones out. I think that's probably one or two there. Once you start clicking, it gets compulsive. And sometimes you'll see that I'm clicking over on the right hand side and stuff's changing on the left, and that's because the pixel I'm clicking on is the same colour as the ones over the other side, so it chooses to do them as well. It's just the way that it works, because vector images really are just mathematical computations rather than an actual image as a photograph would be. That's it. I think that'll do. We don't need to get too much more carried away with that. Now we're going to keep those changes, and everything that's purple will disappear. So when we go back, you'll now see that within the wings of that, they've become see-through. So the butterfly has taken on the colours of the image below. What we can do is reduce that down, make him much smaller because he's rather large compared to the rest. That's not too bad there. We'll perhaps just rotate him, make him look like he's more in flight. And then of course what we've done, once we've got an image, of course, then we can copy. If we right click or use the command C on the MacBook, or the, what is it on a PC? Control C, isn't it?
Yeah. Control
C on a PC. Of course, it's that long since I've used a PC. But anyway, we can copy it and then paste it. He says, did I paste that? Nope. Copy, paste, there we go, and get an identical image of it. Now obviously we don't really want an identical one, so what we'll do is make him smaller, rotate him round a bit and make it look like he's perhaps flying away a ways into the distance. And we can do that again. Copy and paste, identical image, move him up to there, rotate it down a bit, shrink him down a bit, and then we have like some butterflies flying off. Excuse me, I meant to bring my drink over. There we go. How's that looking? Is that looking like a sort of butterfly swooping away into the distance? And you can see, because we cut those bits out, that we can actually see the colours picking up underneath. Now sometimes you may not want that, of course. So another little trick we can do is, if we go back to, if select one of them, say that the biggest one, and then we go to the, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentagon. I had to count the sides. It's a pentagon at the top, whereas before we went across the picture it looked like a little landscape of mountains. To the two to the right of that is a pentagon, and it's labelled effects. Then what we can do is, there's one called glow, which is the third down, and what the glow does is we'll select a colour. Let's make it sort of a blue to make it stand out just for this instance. We'll click on that blue, and as you can now see, that bottom one, it's put a glow around the butterfly. You can make that bigger, so it's got a much larger glow, or you can make it smaller, or you can move the transparency up, which then makes it disappear. So you can just give it a little bit of a shadow, in effect a little bit of a glow, and make it stand out more away from the image underneath. The blue isn't particularly the right colour for that, so if you go down to the bottom it says more colours, and it pulls up one of those colour wheels, and then we can select a more appropriate colour based on the little square that's down the bottom of that screen. Shows the colour that we've selected, and you can kind of compare that with a background, and we'll go for that one. And then you can see that that's probably a slightly more appropriate colour. I'll make it bigger so you can see it. I think that's standing out quite nicely now. I think probably for that particular image, I think that's quite attractive. I mean, maybe we should also put a glow on the others. There's also some presets, so we could put a blue one on that one, and just for effect, I know this is not particularly the right colours, but it's just to give you an idea. So we've now got sort of a turquoisey, the bluey and the green flying away into the distance. I think if that was to be a journal page, that'd look quite nice. The other thing we can do is, because these are all independent layers, we can actually move some of them more back, more forward. For instance, that bird at the moment is sitting loud and proud at the front. If we were to right click on him, and you've got there, centre front or centre back. So if we descend him backwards, that would drop him down one layer, so that now he's under the tree but in front of the turquoise background. Hopefully you can see that the tree is now over the top and the bird's sitting behind the tree. Again, we could then bring him back to the front. If I could select him, it's disappeared. There he is. That's the problem when you send things to the back, you have to move things out of the way to get back to them. But we'll bring that to the front, and now you'll see that it's dropped back quite nicely in front of that tree. So all these layers are movable backwards and forwards quite easily, and I think from starting from a blank page, that's quite a nice image. So what we'll do is move on to a slightly different type. We shall go to Home, File, New Document, and go back to a nice blank piece of paper, which again, the first thing we shall do is go to Layout, change the orientation to Landscape, and then we'll go and insert some pictures from File, and this time we shall go for, I've got some nice vintage A4 paper there, which is sort of a, I suppose, vintagey coffee stained lined paper. Again, the first thing we need to do is to wrap the text in front of, and then we can move that around, and then what we can do is, in this instance, because it's just lined, we'll just grab the right hand side and drag it straight across and off the page. Those lines are probably a little close together, so what we'll do in this instance is drop that down and grab the top and drag it up, and you'll see that that will open up all those lines. So there we've got, from a blank piece of paper, quite quickly, a very nice looking vintagey lined paper. Now obviously we like things on it, so what we can do again is go to Insert, Picture, from File, and find something nice that we'd like to put on front of it. There we go. Let's put them flowers on. Again, that's a let's wrap the text in front of text, and as you see, that again is a JPEG, so it's got a nice white background, and obviously that's not much use to us because that's losing our lovely vintagey lined paper. So we'll go to Remove Background. Oh, that's taken off much more than we want, so we'll have to mark some areas to keep. There we go. That's looking much better already.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Yep.
Somebody wants to buy Word for their iPad. There's somewhere to go, isn't there, where Word isn't quite so expensive?
For the iPad?
Yeah.
I'd have to look into that, to be honest. I'm not overly sure.
Where would you recommend going to buy Word itself?
I bought it, I think it's called fastsoftware.co.uk. Word itself, if you buy it from a place like that, what they do is basically give you the download key. You download the software from Microsoft, then enter the product key, and it install it one time on a PC or a Mac.
Right.
And that cost me about £30.
Will you put the details of that up afterwards?
Yeah.
Please? Okay.
I shall do. Right. Anyway, there we just one area that we need to remove. There's just a little bit of white in there, which, whilst it's not major, could just annoy me. There we go. So basically everything purple. It's just a little bit down that side there. Look, that's it. Now we've added a bit of white. This is the problem with keeping stuff. There we go. That's it. And we'll just, the other thing you can do, as well as click on things, I'll just show you, is that because it's a pencil, if you press and hold, you can actually draw bits, and it will keep the area that you've drawn around. So you don't have to sort of click on stuff, you can just draw around it, and then it'll keep whatever you've drawn around. But there we go. So we'll hit enter, And we've now got that lovely image, which is one that Miss Paintalot painted. We painted it, then we photographed it, and we stuck it on some dry rub off, and put it on the front of a cupboard, I think it was, wasn't it? Bedside cabinets. We did, and we reversed it and did a left and right, so that image was on top of a relatively light acrylic paint, I think it was, wasn't it? Fusion acrylic paint, in fact. Yeah. So that's our image. So obviously it's copyright free. Now, because that actually went into a panel of a door. Not obviously, but it went into the panel of a door, so it's already sort of cut off nicely as a square at the bottom. So if we were to move that down to the bottom left, there we go. I think that looks fabulous. I don't know any way of putting it, really. It looks really, really smart. And what a lovely journaling page that would make on its own. But of course, there's never so much as too much, so I've been told.
Sometimes there is. That's nice.
That is nice. What I'll do is, should I put a little bit of text in one corner, or
yeah, do and feed it back. Yeah.
Since
or across the whole thing.
So like that.
Whatever.
Got a nice little bit of French text there, which we shall unwrap and put it in front of text again.
Carrie says it looks wonderful, Mr. F.
That's very kind of you. We'll rotate that, put that up there, shrink it down a little, and obviously it's got the background, so we need again is to remove the background. That's it. It's just taking everything out apart from most of the writing. Click on that. Ooh, maybe it's taking all of the writing out. Let's try that again. Remove background. It's hard to see whether that's all purple or not. It obviously is all purple. So what we might have to do is, just delete that. What we might have to do then in that instance is to click on the actual paper. I'm not sure whether this is going to work or not. I've never done this. It's obviously because the lines are so thin, it's not recognises it as being anything. We'll move up the transparency of the paper so it's slightly more invisible. Then we'll move that backwards. There we go. Look at that. Hey, isn't technology wonderful? There we go. That's now added that little bit of French text into the background, so you can just see it, but you could still write over the top of it if you wanted to. How does that look? Have you got there yet?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Yep.
That's good.
We're happy with that one.
Get a bit bigger.
The
text.
The text. Right. Well, let me move that out of the way then, so I can grab that. Because I've moved it to the back again. It's hard to grab.
Yeah.
Let's make that a bit bigger. Yep. And move that back over the top. There we go. How's that? Is that looking alright?
Yeah, that looks lovely.
So there we go. That's another little journaling page with journaling space on it, created effectively with 3 images in a relatively short time from scratch. So what we can do then, I think, is let's go and just... What time have we got? How are we doing for time? Oh, perfect. We shall go to File, make a new document again. Of course, once you've created all these, you could double print them on one piece of paper, and you'd have the 2 sides, fold it down the middle, and you'd have a journal page ready to go. As I mentioned before, anybody that's doing the collaborative journal on Miss Paintalot's Junk Journal group on Facebook, if you think you're going to run out of time or the shielding and can't get out to the post box, or the postage is too expensive, because I know it's particularly expensive from America to the UK, you could create a digital page and then just email it. or message it to us and we'll print it out and we can include it in the book, and that will qualify as your entry into the collaborative journal, which will be given away to one of the people that contributed to the journal once we've collated it all together, put it in a nice cover, and then we'll have a draw, and one lucky person will get to keep it forever.
Lynn Whitman is beyond excited about this.
Is she?
Yeah.
That's good.
She wants to do it, she wants to share them to the group, she wants everybody to share them to the group, which so do I.
Well, absolutely. I mean, anybody that creates one, so long as you make sure that you use, say, the Graphics Fairy or Pixabay, ones that are copyright free,
or any of my images,
or any of the images that that we produce, or anything that you paint yourself, or any photographs that you take, they can all be included, and then you can share them to the group. I'll show you the best way to save them once we just do one more, and we'll actually use some of my photographs, just to show that you can do it with actual photographs that you've taken yourself, either of a texture or a background or a tree or whatever.
I would just like to hammer that home though. They really have got to be copyright free.
They have to be copyright free.
Everything has to. Even check your rubber stamps if you're using stamps, because some stamps aren't.
Yeah. So, yes, abide by all the copyright rules. If it's your own photographs, your own artwork, that's usually the best way to go. But if you go to places like Pexel, Pixabay, Unsplash, Graphics Fairy, have a quick read of their rules and whatever, but most of them are free, copyright free to use.
Kerry's asking, are all the images, the vector images on Pixabay copyright free? It always says, doesn't it, when you go to that download now,
yeah,
it tells you the license that comes with it.
It does. Let me see. There we go. That one that we just did was, it said underneath the free download button, it says Pixabay license, free for commercial use, no attribute required, which means basically you can use that for whatever you want, and it's free for commercial use, so you can put it on things that you sell, and you don't need to attribute it to anybody. You know, you don't need to say, oh, kind of supplied by, though it is a very good practice to do that. Now we've actually downloaded that image, it's come up with saying, say thanks to the image author, and it says crediting isn't required, but linking back is generally appreciated and allows image authors to gain exposure. You can use the following text, and that particular image was by Gordon Johnson from Pixabay. So now we've attributed him, and I think he's done a very nice job on that one. So it is always nice to attribute people, but you also need to check the license. But it also always appears underneath the download button on Pixabay.
Kerry's asking, how do you find out if a rubber stamp is copyright free? Well, actually on Artie Mays and Friends Facebook group, in her files there is a thing about copyright, and it mentions rubber stamps and which are and which aren't copyright free. But when you buy your first pack of rubber stamps, it will say on it somewhere about the copyright. But the general rule is, if you're not sure, don't use it.
Absolutely.
Because the copyright police really do exist.
Indeed they do. So hopefully that's cleared that up. Anyway, so we've got this third one. Just have a quick look, and we'll go again. We've turned that round to the landscape. We'll go to pictures, picture from file. And this time we'll perhaps have a look at some of the pictures that I've taken. Got some little bits of ephemera that I've taken some pictures of. That's another image that we painted on a wooden box. Well, I say we. Fiona obviously painted on top of the wooden box. There's another little bird, graphics fairy. There we go. There's pictures of some leaves, a picture of the moon, a picture of a tree. There we go, that's a very nice one. Let's insert that one. This is a picture I took, obviously according to the date was the 29th of January 2015. It's a picture through the trees with a bit of a moon in the background. Obviously that image I must have date stamped it because it's on there, but we can, again, is to wrap the text, put it in front of text, and then what we can do is make that slightly bigger, make it big enough to get rid of that date on the bottom because we don't really want that. So there we go, that's an image I took. I was obviously feeling arty that day. It's probably too bright to actually put on initially, but again, as we know, we have the ability to edit these things. We'll go back to the format pane, we'll go to the landscape picture-y thing, go to picture transparency, and we can tone that down a bit, which will wash out that blue while still keeping the white and the tree. Somewhere like that, maybe, not too bad. I think that's quite nice. Again, obviously, because I took that photograph, it's copyright free. Then what we can do is insert. I mean, because if you were really clever and you had your brain switched on, of course, you'd do the images that are at the front first. Then when you add them to the back, you wouldn't have to keep moving things to get to them. But I'm afraid I'm not clever enough to work that way. Picture from file. What we got here then, there's a butterfly, blue flowers, more butterflies, more birds. I guess we could put one of them birds in, it wouldn't do any harm. Let's insert one of those. Again, you have to wrap the text, put him in front of the text to release him from his cage. And obviously he's a JPEG, so he's got a background. We need to fussy cut him, which means we need to remove the background, which is the top left. And there we go, that's removed quite a lot actually. Yeah, we'll just keep some of those leaves perhaps down the bottom. There we go. I think that's enough floral nature and chopped a bit off the top, but do we need that? Let's have a look and see. Let's put some of it back in. Oh, that's no good. Actually, I quite like that without just the leaves, maybe. Let's draw a circle around that, get rid of that white patch. Let's colour it in. There we go. That's it, that's got rid of those. I quite like that now. Let's hit enter. And there we are, we have that bird, which perhaps we shall, yeah, I think it'll look nicer that side, I think. There we go, let me know what you think when it comes up on your screen.
Looks nice.
Looks nice. She's been really nice to me today, as she always is, but sometimes I can mess up.
No, it looks lovely. I like it without the flowers, just with the greenery.
Yeah, I like it with the greenery. I've gone back to the download pictures, and this time I've got a nice PNG, so it'll have no background, and we'll insert that, and that's a nice, move that out of the way so I can unlock it in front of text. Thank you, put that back. And we have a nice flock of birds.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Flying through the sky.
That's fabulous.
I'm not sure, they might be a little bit too in your face maybe, but what we can do is we also, in the picture settings where we've been altering the transparency, we can also do what's called picture corrections, and we can do sharpness and brightness, and we can also do picture color. And obviously, because that's black and white, well, black image really, because there is no white because it has no background. And then there's sort of preset button, or you can change the saturation or the temperature or recolor. and in the recolours, there's, if you click on that, it pulls up lots of different colours for those birds. So we can sort of, that one which is blue, which I think is probably more in keeping with sort of the night time, do you think? Or
I think just lighter a bit, just more, just a little bit more opaque. Perhaps.
Well, maybe we'll go back to the brightness and contrast then, and just turn the brightness down. Maybe. I don't think that's going to make much difference on the black. Turn the contrast down. There we go. Oh, there you go. Just turn the contrast down a little. How's that?
Yeah.
There we go. So we've got the bird sitting in the tree, looking like after his long lost mates that are perhaps flying in for the summer or flying off for the winter. Who's to know? Let's just move that up slightly. Move the other image back up slightly.
That's perfect.
There we go. So that's again a very nice image, easily created. One by a free image from, I think, probably Graphics Fairy. One of the flying birds from Pixabay, and my own image that I took one night whilst walking the dog. So let's have a quick recap. Let's go back to the top, go to window, and the first one that we did is the one on the turquoise background with a hand-painted blue tit. Some fairies that we've put a little bit of a glow and a bit of colour. The colours aren't quite right, but you know, this makes them stand out slightly better. And we've inserted a PNG tree that we've lowered the transparency down just to drop it back into the background. That was the first one that we created. Window. The second one we created is the lined vintage paper with a little bit of French text lightly on it, and one of our own hand painted images, which had the background removed and it's just laid in the corner. I think if that was folded down the middle, that'd look very nice in the middle of a journal. And the last one that we created is one of my personal images with a PNG of some birds flying away or flying towards us, and one from the Graphics Fairy that we removed the flowers and just left the foliage, just so he sits in the tree slightly better, because he would look a bit odd in a relatively bare tree with too much flowers around him. So there we go, that's 3 images, and what's that taken us? Just about an hour. Obviously you can experiment. There is many more settings that we can play with, but that's perhaps for another time. So as a quick reminder, watch your copyright. Don't use any images that you're not 100% sure that they aren't copyrighted. You can do that by using places like Pixabay, Pexels, Unsplash, Graphics Fairy, but do check the copyright on each image because it can change. To be on the safe side, of course, you could create your own artwork, photograph that, put that in, and manipulate that digitally. So yeah, the first thing to do when you put an image in is to unwrap it, wrap the text, put it in front of text, and what that does then is allow you to move it around. It's not stuck to the page, and then you just layer up your images, unwrap it each time so it's in front of text. You can move things backwards and forwards, alter the transparency, alter the colours, and create your own beautiful artworks. I hope that's been relatively clear.
Kerry says, brilliant live, Mr. F.
Thank you very much.
I think it was a brilliant live, actually.
Well, for some people it'll be a game changer.
Yeah.
And obviously you can go out and there's plenty of images that you can purchase and whatever, but I think it just adds another string to your bow. It's something you can do not sitting in your craft room.
Lynn says she's going to make a few master boards to use as base, which is a darn good idea. Don't forget about gesso, Lynn, when you're using them. anything that's a bit bright or that you want to dull down on your masterboard, stick a bit of gesso over it, works wonders. Roz says she's really enjoyed this very much. Thank you, Justin.
That's all right.
You're getting your Sunday name.
Oh no, not my Sunday name.
Jean says, thank you, Mr. F. This is just awesome.
Well, I mean, you can do obviously all these things and many more in say Photoshop, something like that. But I think generally more people have a copy of Word than they would Photoshop.
I think it's not as intimidating. I think it's more familiar.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. It's probably more familiar. Obviously, if you haven't got Word and you don't want to buy Word, there's a thing called Apache OpenOffice. It used to be called OpenOffice, but it's now called Apache OpenOffice, which is like an open source free software which pretty much replicates everything that Word does.
Oh, I knew you had an answer.
And obviously, if you're an Apple person, obviously you may have Pages, which is the Apple version of Word. I mean, we're lucky these days that Word you can run on a PC or you can run on a Mac. Originally, of course, you couldn't run it on an Apple at all. So that's good to know.
Miranda says, thank you, Mr. F. Great live, it's fantastic. A follow-up video showing any other features would be fab too.
I shall do that.
And Jean says she did this years ago on a CD program back in the day.
Back in the day, eh?
Yeah, back in the days of CDs.
Oh, I'm just playing here. I've found another nice little tree bark background. I know I said I'd finished, but you know, you were talking, so I thought
I'm always talking. You never get off, because I'm always talking.
It's true. So just doing a little bit of tree bark
So
there.
are you going to do a part 2?
I should do a part 2 because, as I say, there's other drop-down menus at the top. We briefly looked at the glow, but there's shadow, reflection, soft edges, 3D rotation, 3D format, and artistic effects. All things that we can use to manipulate the image to get it just how we like it. For instance, let me just delete that one. Picture from file. Let's have a look at say one of those birds. Let's just insert that just as a taster for next time, as it were. Again, we wrap the text, put it in front, so then we can move that around. We're not constrained by the margins or anything else. In artistic effects, there is some presets, and it's a bit like Photoshop. If you've ever done Photoshop, you got things like watercolor, pastels. For instance, I was to click on that one that says pastel smooth, then it'll convert that image from the actual image that it was into one that looks like it's been done by pastels. We have, what else have we got there? It's pencil sketch. There we go. It's converted that image instantly, as if by magic. I mean, I don't know how it does it, but it's converted that image so it looks like now it looks like a pencil sketch, which then means, of course, you can go in yourself and colour it in. You could.
And Lynn's telling you what to do, not telling you what to do, suggesting that you can flip the image to point the bird the other way.
You can. That's what the 3D rotation is.
I love it.
But there's other things we can do.
Yes, Lynn, I love the pencil too.
Which we won't go into at the moment, but you can do that. There's one called reflection, for instance, which will then reflect that image with some presets. Let's move that down. There you go.
Don't show them all your tricks in one day.
I'm not. I'm just going to leave you with that glorious shot that image that we started with a moment ago, which was a very colourful bird, is now a pencil sketch, and we've added a reflection in some water underneath. all 2 clicks of a mouse, and I'm not going to show you anymore because it'll spoil my next live.
That's amazing.
So as you can see, it is amazing. It is a wonderful, wonderful world of digitalness out there.
Truly amazing.
See, I've even impressed
Why have you
Fiona.
not been doing these and selling them on Etsy?
Because that's work. I keep telling you, when you do something that you love for money, it ceases to be something that you love and just becomes work.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I know
Yeah,
I'm right.
cliffhanger, Hilda. You're right.
Leave you on that cliffhanger. Right. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me. I won't shut that. I shall do that and do that, and put it back onto the main screen, which again is one of Fiona's one-stroke technique flowers.
It's not one stroke. Though.
Is it not?
No, it's just acrylic.
Oh, it's just acrylic. See, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But again, that's a very nice image, isn't it? I could certainly take that and manipulate that and create some digital papers with that. But I'd be very interested to see what you do. If you're not already a member, obviously you can join Miss Paintalot's Junk Journal group on Facebook, where you'll find other people, like-minded folk, all into junk journaling, and now hopefully into digital manipulation of images. And I shall catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.